I'm standing in the kitchen of our apartment, the one I paid the deposit for, looking at a single cupcake with a lopsided candle. The wax is dripping onto the frosting. Red wax, like a tiny, slow-bleeding wound. It's 11:47 p.m. My birthday is ending in 13 minutes. Marcus isn't here. He didn't call. He didn't text. But his location? His location says he's at the Obsidian. It's a rooftop bar 3 blocks from his office. A place he told me was too corporate and soul-sucking for a date night. My phone vibrates. I think, finally, he's coming home. He's going to have a bouquet of those lilies I like and a clumsy excuse. I pick it up. It's not a text from Marcus. It's an Instagram notification. A girl I don't know, a girl named Elena with a private profile, just tagged Marcus in a story. I shouldn't have clicked it. I should have blown out the candle and gone to bed. But I clicked. There he is. My boyfriend of 4 years. The man who watched me cry when my dad died. The man who promised we'd be engaged by Christmas. He's laughing. He's got his arm draped over this woman's chair like he owns the space around her. There's a bottle of vintage champagne on the table. He hates champagne. He says it's piss for people with too much money. The caption? Celebrating my favorite person's big promotion. To us. The candle on my cupcake finally flickers and dies. The room is dark. I don't cry. That's the weird part. I just feel cold, like my blood has turned into slush. I look at my reflection in the darkened microwave door. Who is this girl? Elena is wearing a dress that probably cost more than my monthly car payment. She looks like she belongs at the Obsidian. I look like I belong in the before picture of a depression medication commercial. I realize then that Marcus didn't forget my birthday. He chose hers. I grab my car keys. I'm not going to the Obsidian to scream. I'm not going to throw a drink. I'm going there to see the look in his eyes when he realizes he's lost the only person who actually knew who he was before he started wearing those $400 shoes I bought him. I drive in silence. No radio. Just the sound of my own breathing. When I pull up to the valet, I see his car. The silver sedan. I'm wearing a hoodie and leggings, but I don't care. I walk past the hostess. I walk past the velvet ropes. The air smells like expensive gin and desperation. And then I see them. They aren't just sitting. They're leaning in. He's whispering something in her ear, and she's giggling, that high-pitched, practice sound. He looks up. His eyes meet mine. And for a split second, the mask doesn't just slip. It shatters. Clara, he stammers. I don't say a word. I just walk to the table, pick up his full glass of champagne, and I don't throw it. I set it down on the floor, right at his feet. Happy birthday to me, Marcus, I whisper. As I turn to leave, a man at the next table, a man in a charcoal suit with eyes like flint, watches me. He doesn't look away. And as Marcus starts to scramble out of his chair, this stranger does something unexpected. He shifts his heavy, mahogany chair just enough to block Marcus's path. Sit down, counselor, the stranger says, his voice like low thunder. The lady is leaving. I don't look back. I walk out into the night, but my car won't start. And that's when the rain begins. I'm standing in the pouring rain, staring at a dead engine, when the charcoal suit from the bar steps out of the shadows with an umbrella. The rain is that kind of cold that feels like needles. I'm shaking, but it's not just the temperature. It's the adrenaline leaving my body, replaced by the crushing weight of reality. For years, I gave him 4 years of my life. I worked double shifts at the clinic so he could finish law school. I stayed home while he went to networking events. I was the foundation. And foundations are meant to be walked on, aren't they? Your alternator is shot. The voice is deep, grounded. I look up, and there he is. The man from the bar. Up close, he's even more intimidating. He's tall, maybe 6 feet 3 inches, with a jawline that looks like it was carved out of granite. He's holding a large, black umbrella over me, perfectly shielding me from the downpour while he lets the rain soak his own shoulder. I can handle it, I say, my voice cracking. I hate that it cracks. I want to be a marble statue. You're shivering, Clara, he says. I freeze. How do you know my name? Your ex-boyfriend wasn't exactly quiet when you walked in, he says. He reaches into his pocket and hands me a handkerchief.
Silk. White.
Probably worth more than my phone. I'm Julian. And before you think I'm a serial killer, I'm the guy who just saved your car from being towed by the valet. I take the handkerchief. It smells like cedarwood and something crisp. I don't need a hero, Julian. I just need a jumpstart or a ride. I don't do jumpstarts in Armani, he says, a faint, dry wit touching his lips. But I do have a car. And you look like you're about to collapse. I look back at the entrance of the Obsidian. Marcus is coming through the glass doors. He's angry. I can see the vein in his forehead bulging. He's looking for me, ready to flip the script, ready to tell me I'm crazy and insecure for showing up at his business dinner. I look at Julian. I don't know him, but I know Marcus. And Marcus is a lie. Take me anywhere, I say. Julian nods. He leads me to a black SUV, a Cullinan. The doors open silently. The interior is a sanctuary of leather and quiet. As we pull away, I see Marcus in the rearview mirror, standing in the rain, looking small. For the first time in years, he looks small. We drive for 10 minutes in total silence. I'm waiting for the pitch, waiting for him to hit on me or ask for my number. But Julian just drives. He looks at the road with a focused intensity. Why did you help me back there? I finally ask. I don't like bullies, he says simply. And I don't like seeing talent wasted on someone who uses people as stepping stones. Talent. I laugh. A bitter, jagged sound. I'm a nurse, Julian. I'm not a talent. I'm a service provider. You're the woman who managed the logistics for the Miller Law Firm's pro bono gala last year, he says, glancing at me. I saw you there. You ran that floor like a general. I asked who you were, and Marcus told me you were his assistant. I knew he was lying the moment he said it. The air leaves my lungs. Marcus told people I was his assistant? At the event I organized? The event that got him his junior partnership? The betrayal isn't a sharp pain anymore. It's a cold, hard knot in my stomach. I've been erased. I haven't just been cheated on. I've been deleted from my own life story. Where are we going? I ask, noticing we aren't heading toward my apartment. To my office, Julian says. My late-night team is there. We have a dry change of clothes in the gym suite and a phone. You're going to call a locksmith for your apartment, and then you're going to make a choice. What choice? Julian pulls the car into a private underground garage. He turns off the engine and looks at me. His eyes are no longer flinty. They are observant. You can go back to that apartment, cry, and wait for him to come back with flowers and a lie you'll eventually choose to believe. Or you can realize that the man you were building a life for never actually existed. He hands me a folder that was sitting in the center console. What is this? The merger Marcus is working on, Julian says. My company is the one buying his firm. Or we were. Until I saw how he treats his foundations. I open the folder. My heart stops. There, in the internal memos, is a plan to fire the entire nursing staff at the clinic I work for, the clinic Marcus's firm represents. He knew. He knew for months they were going to let us go, and he never said a word. He was dating the woman whose company is replacing us. I look at the signatures on the bottom of the layoff notice. Marcus's signature is right next to Elena's. The paper felt like ice in my hands. You know that feeling when the floor doesn't just drop out from under you, but the entire world seems to tilt? That was me, sitting in the plush leather seat of a car that cost more than my childhood home, staring at my own death warrant. Well, my professional death warrant. There it was. Exhibit A. The signature was unmistakable. Marcus always looped his M with this arrogant little flourish, a stroke of the pen that said he was more important than whatever he was signing. Next to it was Elena's signature, neat, sharp, and predatory. They weren't just dating, they were a strike team. He was the inside man and she was the executioner. You didn't have to show me this, I whispered, my eyes burning. I refused to let a tear hit that page. I wouldn't give them the satisfaction of a salt stain. Julian shifted in the driver's seat. He didn't offer a platitude. He didn't say, I'm sorry. He knew sorry was a cheap currency. Information is the only thing that levels the playing field, Clara. You've been playing a game where the other person was hiding the cards. Now you see the deck. He told me he was working late to save the clinic. I said, a hysterical laugh bubbling up in my throat. He told me he was fighting the board to keep our pensions. I made him dinner every night for 3 months, kept the house silent so he could focus on the litigation, and all the while, he was drafting the severance packages. He's not just a liar, Julian said, his voice cutting through my spiral like a blade. He's a mid-level strategist who thinks he's a kingmaker. But he forgot one thing. What? He forgot who actually did the work. Julian turned to face me fully. The dim light of the parking garage caught the sharp angles of his face. I've watched your career, Clara. Not just the gala. I know you streamlined the triage system at St. Jude's. I know you're the reason the Miller firm didn't collapse during the audit 3 years ago because you kept their records better than their own paralegals. Marcus is a suit. You're the engine. I looked out the window at the concrete pillars. The engine is about to be unemployed, Julian. Only if you want to be. He reached into the back seat and grabbed a sleek, minimalist laptop bag. My company, Vanguard Holdings, doesn't just buy firms. We rebuild industries. I'm looking for a director of operations for our new medical wing. Someone who knows the clinical side, but has the spine to handle the legal sharks. I stared at him. You're offering me a job?
Now?
In a garage? While I smell like rain and betrayal. I'm offering you a weapon, he corrected. Marcus thinks he's about to close the biggest deal of his life tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. He thinks he's walking into a room to sign away your clinic and secure his partnership. He doesn't know I've decided to pull the funding. I felt a spark. It wasn't love. It wasn't even hope yet. It was spite. Pure, unadulterated spite. It's a powerful fuel when you've been running on empty. What do you need from me? I asked. I need the gaps, Julian said. Marcus's filing is sloppy. He's relying on the fact that no one actually reads the clinical overhead reports. I need someone who knows where the bodies are buried in those books. If we find the discrepancy, I think is there, the merger doesn't just stall. It dies. And Marcus goes down for malpractice. I looked at the folder. I thought about the 3 years of birthdays I spent waiting for him. I thought about the assistant comment. I thought about the cupcake with the red wax. Give me a pen, I said. And a very large coffee. As we head up the elevator, my phone screams with a text from Marcus. Where the hell are you? You left your car at the club. Don't make a scene, Clara. Just come home, and we can talk about your behavior. Don't make a scene. I stared at the text until the words blurred. That was his favorite weapon, gaslighting dressed up as concern. If I caught him in a lie, I was emotional. If I stood up for myself, I was unstable. For 4 years, I had shrunk myself to fit into the corners of the life he built. I had become a ghost in my own home. Well, ghosts can haunt. Ignore it, Julian said, placing a steaming cup of black coffee on the glass desk in front of me. We were on the 42nd floor. The city stretched out below us like a circuit board. He's losing control of the narrative, and he knows it. Men like Marcus only scream when they're afraid. He's not afraid yet, I muttered, opening the first of 12 digital ledgers. He thinks I'm at home, crying into a pillow, waiting to apologize for embarrassing him at the bar. Then let's give him something to really worry about. For the next 5 hours, the world disappeared. It was just me, the data, and the quiet presence of Julian in the corner of the office, making calls in low, urgent tones. It was 2 a.m., then 3 o'clock. My eyes ached, but my mind was sharper than it had been in years. When you stop trying to save a relationship, you have a lot of extra brain power. And then I found it. It wasn't a big, glaring error. Marcus was too smart for that. It was a decimal point in the pension fund transfers. A tiny, microscopic leak. Julian, I called out. My heart was hammering against my ribs. He was at my side in a second. I pointed to the screen. Look at the miscellaneous administrative fees for the last 18 months. They're being routed through a shell company called EM Logistics. EM, Julian mused. Elena Miller?
Exactly.
He wasn't just dating her to climb the ladder. He was using her firm to siphon the clinic's operating budget. He's been draining the very place he's supposed to be representing. If this merger goes through, that money vanishes into the restructuring costs. It's a perfect heist. Julian leaned in, his shoulder brushing mine. He smelled like that same cedarwood scent from the car. How much? Total? Nearly $4 million, I said. Money meant for equipment, for staff raises, for the patients. I felt a wave of nausea. He hadn't just betrayed me. He had betrayed the people I worked with every day. The nurses who worked double shifts, the elderly patients who relied on our subsidized care. He had stolen from the vulnerable to buy $400 shoes and champagne for a woman who helped him pick their pockets. You have the proof? Julian asked. I have the digital trail. But I need the physical contracts from Marcus's home office to link the shell company directly to his personal accounts. He keeps them in a floor safe under his desk. Julian looked at his watch. 4:15 a.m. He'll be asleep. Or he's at her place. He's at home, I said, a cold certainty settling over me. He'll be there, waiting to stage a reconciliation talk so I don't screw up his big morning. He needs me to be the supportive partner for the cameras one last time. It's dangerous, Clara.
If he catches you.
He won't catch me, I said, standing up. I felt tall. I felt powerful.
He thinks he knows who I am.
He thinks I'm the girl who buys him lilies and fixes his ties. He has no idea who is coming through that door. Julian grabbed his coat. I'll drive you. I'll wait around the corner. If you aren't out in 10 minutes, I'm calling the police. 5 minutes, I said. I only need 5. I slide my key into the lock of our apartment. The lights are on. I step inside, and Marcus is sitting on the sofa, a glass of scotch in his hand, staring at the door with a look that makes my blood run cold. You're late. Marcus didn't stand up. He just swirled the ice in his glass. He was still in his suit from the bar, but his tie was loosened, hanging like a noose around his neck. The room smelled of expensive scotch and resentment. I went for a walk, I said, keeping my voice flat. My heart was a drum in my ears, but I kept my hands steady. A walk. In a monsoon? He finally looked at me, his eyes narrowing. You made quite a scene tonight, Clara. Elena was very confused. She thinks you're unwell. I had to spend 2 hours smoothing things over. I'm sure it was exhausting for you, I said, walking toward the bedroom. I'm just here to get some things. I'll be out of your way. Sit down, he barked. It was his courtroom voice, the one he used to intimidate witnesses. I stopped. I didn't turn around.
No.
The silence that followed was heavy. Marcus stood up slowly. I could hear his footsteps on the hardwood. He stopped just behind me. I could feel the heat radiating off him. Excuse me? I said no, Marcus. I'm not a witness, and I'm definitely not your assistant. I'm tired. I'm going to get my things, and I'm leaving. You aren't going anywhere, he whispered, and for the first time, I heard the desperation under the arrogance. The merger is tomorrow. You're coming to the signing. You're going to smile. You're going to play the devoted partner, and you're going to help me seal this deal. If you don't, I'll make sure you never work in a hospital in this city again. I'll have your license flagged for substance abuse. I've already got the paperwork drafted. My stomach turned. He had it all planned out. A total assassination of my character, just to keep his hands clean. You'd really do that? I asked, finally turning to look him in the eye. After 4 years? After everything I did for you? Business is business, Clara. You should have learned that by now. He took a sip of his drink, looking smug. Now, go get some sleep. You look like hell. He walked back to the sofa, convinced he'd won. He thought he'd broken me. He didn't realize he'd just given me the final piece of the puzzle, the confirmation that he was truly a monster. I walked into the bedroom and shut the door. I didn't pack a bag. I went straight to the closet, moved the shoe rack, and pulled back the rug. The floor safe. I knew the code. It was the date of our first anniversary. He was too lazy to change it. 0-6-1-2. The heavy metal door clicked open. I reached inside, my fingers trembling. I didn't want the jewelry. I didn't want the cash. I pulled out a blue leather ledger, the physical records of EM Logistics. I tucked it under my hoodie. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it would burst through my ribs. I had to get out.
Now.
I opened the bedroom door. Marcus was standing in the hallway.
He wasn't looking at me.
He was looking at the bulge under my sweatshirt. "What's that, Clara?" His voice was dangerously low. "Nothing. Just my laptop." "You don't have a laptop that big." He stepped toward me. "Give it to me."
No.
He lunged. I'd spent years avoiding his temper, dodging his moods, but this time, I didn't move. I braced myself. As he grabbed my arm, I did something I'd never done. I used the self-defense move my brother had taught me years ago. I twisted, used his own momentum against him, and shoved him back toward the bed. He tripped, crashing into the nightstand. The glass of scotch shattered. I didn't wait. I bolted. I ran down the hallway, through the living room, and out the front door. I didn't take the elevator. I took the stairs, my feet flying over the concrete. I could hear him screaming my name from the landing above, his voice echoing like a demon in the stairwell. I burst out of the lobby doors into the gray morning light. The rain had stopped, leaving the world slick and silver. The black SUV was there. The door flew open before I even reached it. I dove into the seat, clutching the blue ledger to my chest.
Go.
I gasped. As Julian floored it, I looked back. Marcus was standing on the sidewalk, barefoot, his face twisted in a mask of rage. He knew the game had changed. Julian looked at the ledger in my lap. "You got it." "I got it," I said, my voice shaking with a mix of terror and triumph. "But he's going to kill me, Julian. He's going to come for everything." Julian reached over and placed a hand over mine. His grip was steady. "Let him come. He's walking into a trap he built himself." He looked at the clock on the dashboard. 5:30 a.m. "We have 3.5 hours until the signing," Julian said. "Let's go to work." My phone rings. It's a restricted number. I answer it, and a woman's voice, Selena, says, "You have exactly 1 hour to bring that book to the office, Clara. Or the police will be at your mother's house with a warrant for theft." 1 hour. Elena Miller had just threatened my mother. My mother, who only knows Marcus as the polite young lawyer who fixed her leaking faucet once. My mother, whose heart is as fragile as fine china. I stared at the black screen of my phone after the line went dead. The silence in the car was heavy enough to crush me. The fear was a living thing in my gut, twisting and clawing, but underneath it, a new feeling was taking root. It wasn't spite anymore. It wasn't just pain. It was rage. A cold, calculating rage that made my vision blur. "You don't go after my family. You do not touch my mother." "She's bluffing," Julian said, his eyes on the road. But he wasn't driving toward the Vanguard Tower anymore. We were heading east, toward the old industrial district. "The ledger is stolen from his safe, not hers. She can't report a theft without revealing Marcus has been hiding assets." "You don't know them, Julian," I said, my voice dangerously calm. "They are cornered animals. They will burn the whole forest down just to keep from being caught. They will plant drugs on my mother. They will pay off a cop. I have to go to them." I reached for the door handle. In that moment, I was rational. I would exchange the book for my mother's safety. I would lose. I would let them win. Because some things are worth more than justice. Julian slammed on the brakes. The SUV lurched to a halt in an empty warehouse lot. He turned to me, his grip on the steering wheel so tight his knuckles were white. "If you walk through that door with that book, you lose everything," he said, his voice dropping to a growl. "You lose the clinic. You lose your license. And Clara, you lose yourself. They will own you forever." Is that what you want your mother to see? A daughter who let herself be destroyed by a man who never even loved her? His words hit me like a physical blow. I looked at the blue ledger. The proof. The weapon. The only thing that stood between me and a life of servitude. Then what do? I screamed, the tears finally breaking through. "Tell me what to do. I can't let them hurt her." Julian didn't comfort me. He didn't offer a hug. He leaned in closer, his eyes intense and demanding. "You don't surrender the weapon, Clara. You pull the trigger." He grabbed his phone and made a call. "Marcus? I know you're listening. Elena is clumsy. We are heading to the Vanguard Tower now. The deal is still 9 a.m. And Marcus? If any misunderstandings involving Clara's family are reported to the authorities before then, I'm personally pulling the legal funding for your defense team when the embezzlement charges hit the press in 4 hours. Do you understand me? He hung up without waiting for an answer. The silence returned, but the dynamic had shifted. Julian wasn't just my protector anymore. He was the general. What do we do now? I asked. The hour is a countdown, Julian said, pulling the SUV back onto the road. Elena thinks she's calling the police. She's not. She's calling the board members of the clinic to stage an emergency removal of the staff before the merger is signed. She's trying to scrub the evidence. We aren't going to the tower. Where are we going? To the source. 20 minutes later, we pulled up to the clinic. My clinic. It was 6:15 a.m. The first shift of nurses was just arriving, coffee in hand, looking tired but ready. They didn't know. They had no idea they were about to be erased. What are we doing here? We need the physical paperwork that matches the digital fraud, Julian said. The miscellaneous administrative fees for EM logistics were billed as specialized triage training. I need the attendance sheets. I need the sign-in logs. The ones Marcus swore were destroyed in the server wipe last month. A slow smile spread across my face.
Marcus was sloppy.
He thought everyone else was as lazy as he was. He lied about that too, I said. He didn't destroy them. He made me file them in the basement archive. He said they were for a rainy day. I guess the rain finally came. I lead Julian down the back stairs to the basement archive, my keycard still working. We find the file cabinet. I pull the drawer open. It's empty. Every single file is gone. And on the back of the empty drawer, someone has tapped a single, tiny, red candle. It wasn't just a threat. It was a message. The red candle. The same wax that had dripped onto my birthday cupcake. Marcus hadn't been one step ahead of me. He had been lying in wait. He knew my patterns. He knew the archive was where I'd go. He hadn't destroyed the files to hide the evidence. He had moved them to torture me. He took them, I whispered, staring at the wax. He knew I'd come here. Julian was examining the lock on the basement door. It wasn't picked. It was accessed by an administrator's code. Elena, I said, the name like ash in my mouth. She had absolute access. While I was doing the work, she was holding the keys. We need a new plan, Julian said, his voice taut. He has the ledger from the safe, and now he has the physical proof from the archive. He thinks he's erased his trail. At 9 a.m., he walks in, signs the merger, and his $4 million theft becomes operating costs for Vanguard Holdings. I lose $4 million, the clinic closes, and you are jobless and discredited. I looked around the dusty, cold basement. For years, all that time, I was the joke. I was the fool who built a pedestal for a man who only wanted to climb over me. No, I said. It was a quiet word, but it had weight. It had mass. No, he does not win. Clara, we have no physical evidence of the siphoning, Julian said. The board won't listen to digital spreadsheets that could be forged. We need a smoking gun. I am the smoking gun, I said, turning to him. I didn't file those papers, Julian. I memorized them. He stared at me, his brow furrowed. You memorized 18 months of administrative ledgers? I'm a nurse, I said, a slow, predatory calm settling over me. I don't just read data. I track patients. I monitor complex chemical charts. I have a near-eidetic memory for operational logistics. Marcus always told me my memory was useful when he needed to find his keys. He didn't realize it was deadly. I looked at my watch. 7 a.m. I can rebuild the attendance sheets, I said. I can recall every date, every signature, every logistics billing code. I can recreate the physical ledger from memory, and I can match it to the digital fraud on your laptop. It won't be the original, but if I can swear to it under oath, if I can show the board the exact sequence of the fraud, it'll be enough to trigger a federal audit. A federal audit kills the merger instantly, Julian said, a look of respect, true respect, appearing in his eyes. And Marcus goes to prison. But Clara, You will have to testify. You will be cross-examined by the best lawyers in the state. They will drag your entire life through the mud. They will paint you as a scorned woman seeking revenge. Let them, I said, walking toward the stairs. I've been in the mud for 4 years. I'm used to it. The difference is, this time, I'm the one pulling the strings. The next 2 hours were a blur of focus and fury. We went back to Julian's office. He brought in a notary and a court stenographer. For 2 solid hours, I dictated. I rebuilt the stolen ledgers from memory, detail by excruciating detail. I didn't stop. I didn't hesitate. I poured 4 years of pain and erasure into every line of code, every fake training session. At 8:45 a.m., I signed the sworn affidavit. It was a 200-page document of meticulous, irrefutable truth. It was a life I had cataloged. Julian was on the phone organizing his legal team. He hung up and looked at me. The board is in the main conference room. Marcus and Elena are there. They're already celebrating. Then let's crash the party, I said. I was still in my hoodie. My hair was a mess. I was exhausted. But as I walked to the elevator, I saw my reflection in the glass wall. I didn't look like a victim anymore. I looked like a force of nature. Are you ready? Julian asked as the elevator doors opened. For this? I smiled and it felt natural. I've been ready for 4 years. We walk into the conference room. Marcus is at the head of the table, pen in hand, laughing as he raises a glass of champagne. He sees me. The smile on his face doesn't just slip. It simply dissolves into an expression of pure, unadulterated shock. Behind him, on the vast projection screen, I see the finalized merger document. He's already signed it. The silence in that room was louder than any scream. Marcus stood frozen, the crystal flute hovering halfway to his lips. A single drop of champagne spilled, landing on the very paper he had just signed. Behind him, Elena, looking exquisite in a stark white suit, narrowed her eyes. She wasn't shocked. She was analyzing the threat. Clara, Marcus finally found his voice, but it was reedy, thin. He set the glass down with a tremor. What are you doing here? You look unwell. This is a private legal closing. Unwell. I walked to the opposite end of the mahogany table, past the confused board members, past the bank lawyers, and I looked right at him. Funny, I've never felt better. Tell me, Marcus, did you use the clinic's pension fund to buy this round of champagne, or did you just use the Yem Logistics slush fund? A gasp went around the room. One of the board members, old Dr. Eris, sat up. What are you talking about? This man, I said, not taking my eyes off Marcus, has not been saving the clinic. He's been draining it for 18 months. This is ridiculous, Elena said, stepping forward. Clara, you are a disgruntled nurse. You are clearly having some sort of emotional episode. Someone call security. Sit down, Elena. Julian's voice cut through the air. He stepped into the room, tossing a heavy file onto the center of the table. You might want to see what your business partner has been up to before you double down on a felony. Julian's legal team filed into the room, their presence imposing and definitive. Mr. CEO, one of the board members stammered, looking at Julian. What is this? Is this about the merger funding? The merger is dead, Julian said simply. He walked to the head of the table and deactivated the projection screen. Marcus's signature vanished into darkness. This entire operation is now a crime scene. Marcus tried to bluff.
He was always good at that.
He forced a laugh. Crime scene? You have nothing. You're trying to bully a law firm with a disgruntled ex-girlfriend? I have the physical files. I have everything. You have spreadsheets that you probably typed up yourself. You're right, I said, a slow, cold smile spreading across my face. I don't have the original files. The ones you stole from the safe. The ones you cleared from the archive this morning. The ones you probably burned. Exactly, Marcus said, regaining some color. So you have no case. Now get out. I leaned over the table. But you forgot one thing, Marcus. You forgot that you spent 4 years making me the keeper of your entire life. You forgot that I filed your tax returns. I paid your bills. I memorized every contract. I know the operational logistics of that clinic better than you know your own face. I opened the file Julian had tossed onto the table. It was my 200-page sworn affidavit, complete with my reconstructed ledgers and signatures. Dr. Eris, I said, looking at the kind-faced board member. On March 14th of last year, a payment of $25,000 was made to EM Logistics for triage staffing optimization. On that same day, Marcus took me to Aspen for a romantic getaway. The travel invoices, which I processed, are attached as Exhibit A. I flipped the page. On August 3rd, $18,000 was paid for compliance software updates. Yet that was the same week you, Dr. Eris, had to treat 3 staff members for computer fatigue because we were still using the old MS-DOS system. Marcus paid for Elena's new car that same week. Exhibit B. I went on for 20 minutes.
Date.
Amount. Fraudulent description. The personal purchase it funded. My testimony wasn't just accurate, it was irrefutable. I was quoting the very lines he had edited. I was reading his own fraud back to him. The blood drained from Marcus's face until he was gray. Elena was backing away, slowly, methodically separating herself from him. You can't prove I did this, Marcus sputtered. This is just words. This is a sworn affidavit from the person who processed the operational logs, Julian's lawyer stated. It matches the digital footprints on Vanguard's server, which your shell company tried to access. But most importantly, it triggered an automatic forensic audit the moment Ms. Clara signed it. An audit. Elena hissed, finally showing fear. A federal forensic audit, Julian confirmed, his voice like a gavel slamming down. They're at your firm right now, Marcus. They're looking for the files you swore you had. They're looking for the signatures you claim don't exist. And when they find nothing, your lack of evidence becomes the final proof. Marcus didn't scream.
He didn't yell.
He just slowly sank back into his chair, the life draining out of him. He looked at me, and in his eyes I didn't see regret. I didn't see sorrow. I only saw the horror of a man who realized he'd spent 4 years ignoring the very weapon that was about to destroy him. Security, Julian said quietly. Escort the former counsel and his accomplice off the premises. They will wait in the lobby for the authorities. As the guards took Marcus's arm, he looked at me. His eyes were wild. Clara, we can talk about this. For years. Think about everything we had. We had a lot of things, Marcus, I said, watching him being led away. But respect was never one of them. The door closes, leaving me alone with the board and Julian. Dr. Eris stands up slowly. MS, Clara, our clinic is ruined. You've exposed the truth, but the theft is real. We have no funding and we have to close by the end of the month. We're done, aren't we? Dr. Eris asked. His voice was brittle, the sound of a man who had spent 40 years building a legacy only to watch it get looted by a man in a tailored suit. Without that merger money, the clinic is a corpse, Clara. You saved our souls, but we're still going broke. The room felt small. The board members were looking at their hands, at the mahogany table, anywhere but at me. I was the whistleblower. I was the hero who had just accidentally burnt the house down to kill the termites. I looked at Julian. He was standing by the window, his silhouette dark against the city skyline. He didn't look like he was mourning. He looked like he was waiting. Actually, I said, my voice steady, I have one more exhibit. But this one isn't for a courtroom. I turned to Julian. The $4 million. The money Marcus siphoned into EM Logistics. It's in a frozen escrow account now, isn't it? As part of the federal investigation. Technically, yes, Julian said, turning around. It's recovered stolen assets. It belongs to the clinic's creditors. And who is the largest creditor? I asked. A slow, knowing smirk spread across Julian's face. Vanguard Holdings. Because we bought the clinic's outstanding debt 2 hours ago. The board gasped. Dr. Eris looked up, a glimmer of hope in his eyes. I'm not a philanthropist, Julian said, walking toward the table. I'm a businessman. And as the owner of this debt, I have the right to appoint a new chief operating officer. Someone who knows the books. Someone who can't be bought. Someone who sees the patients as people, not line items. He stopped in front of me. He didn't say a word. He just held out a new contract. It wasn't a merger. It was a rebirth. You want me to run it? I whispered. I want you to save it, Julian replied. The $4 million will be returned to the clinic's operating budget. We're going to upgrade the equipment, double the nursing staff, and build a new pediatric wing. But on one condition, you never let a man like Marcus through those doors again. I took the pen. It felt heavy, not with the weight of Marcus's lies, but with the weight of responsibility. I signed my name. No flourishes. No arrogance. Just Clara. The next 3 months were the hardest of my life. I didn't marry a CEO, not yet. I married a mission. I was at the clinic at 5 a.m. every morning. I was there when the new monitors arrived. I was there when we hired back every nurse Marcus had tried to fire. And Marcus? Marcus was waiting for trial. He called me from the local jail once. He tried to tell me he still loved me. He tried to tell me that Elena had manipulated him. I didn't even argue. I just said, Marcus, I'm busy. I have a surgery schedule to approve. And then I hung up. But there was one piece of unfinished business. It happened on a Tuesday. I was leaving the clinic late, the sun setting in a bruised purple sky. I walked out to the parking lot, and there was the silver sedan. His car. It had been impounded and sold at auction. And standing next to it was Julian. He wasn't in a charcoal suit. He was wearing jeans and a black t-shirt. He looked human. He looked like someone I wanted to know. Nice car, he said, tossing me the keys. I bought it at the police auction. I figured you might want to do something therapeutic with it. I look at the car, the symbol of my 4 years of being less than. I look at Julian, and then I look at the heavy-duty industrial shredder at the edge of the lot. I didn't shred the car. I sold it. Every cent of the profit went into the clinic's new patient emergency fund. I wanted that car, that symbol of Marcus's vanity, to pay for someone's insulin, for someone's chemotherapy. I wanted his greed to finally do some good. The day the clinic's new wing opened, Julian was there. He wasn't the CEO of Vanguard that day. He was just the man who had stood in the rain with an umbrella when my world was ending. We stood on the rooftop garden, looking out over the city. It was my birthday again. 1 year since the cupcake. 1 year since the red wax. You look different, Julian said, leaning against the railing. I feel different, I said. I used to think that being strong meant holding on, keeping a relationship together, keeping a man happy, keeping the peace. I didn't realize that sometimes strength is just knowing when to let the whole thing burn so you can see the stars. And what do the stars say today, Clara? I looked at him, and for the first time, I wasn't afraid of what I saw. I saw a partner, not a boss, not a savior, just a man who respected the woman I had become. They say I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. I didn't marry a CEO to be rescued. I married a man who happened to be a CEO because he was the only one brave enough to stand beside a woman who had finally rescued herself. We didn't have a big, flashy wedding. We had a quiet ceremony in the clinic's courtyard, surrounded by the nurses who had become my family and the patients who were the heartbeat of my life. My mother was there, glowing, her heart stronger than ever. As for Marcus and Elena, they're serving 5 to 7 years for corporate fraud and embezzlement. Last I heard, Marcus is trying to start a legal consulting business in the yard. Some habits never die. But he's a ghost now. A shadow in a story I don't read anymore. The lesson I learned? It's simple, but it's hard. People will tell you that you are the assistant in your own life. They will tell you that you are the foundation while they build the towers. Don't believe them. You are the architect. You are the engine. And if someone forgets your birthday to date the woman who's trying to steal your future, let them have each other. Because while they're busy chasing shadows, you'll be busy building an empire. Justice isn't always a gavel in a courtroom. Sometimes, justice is just a life well lived, a heart that's healed, and a morning where you wake up and realize you don't need anyone to tell you what you're worth. You already know. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe, and if you've lived through something similar, share your story in the comments. Your voice matters.